Hello, team.
Hi, MJ.
Hi, Glenn. How are you?
Good, good. Are you going to be able to make us all co-hosts so we
Yes,
can?
I'm doing that now.
Awesome. And MJ, were you able to create poll questions by any chance?
I haven't created any poll questions so far. I'm just trying to find.
Nice shirt, Glenn.
Yeah, you got yours on?
There we go.
No, I have my committee one on.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Oh yeah, I never came down to pick.
Oh, they're here. They're safe. I'm
Okay.
here the whole week.
All right, I gotta remember to do that.
I'm exhausted. I've been going solid all day.
Yeah, I've been doing doctor stuff with my mother most of the day.
Oh,
so.
no. How old is Mom?
Where's Emily?
She'll be 82 at the end of the month.
Oh, my mom's 91. And I can't keep up with her.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Hey, how come your True Sport shows up in the right direction, Glenn, and mine doesn't?
Oh,
You got to go to your, go down to that camera where it says video.
Yeah.
And click on,
so strange.
click on
I'll try
virtual background.
here and on my phone.
And then click on, unclick mirror
Chrome.
my video.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, well, simple
Yeah.
when you know what you're doing.
You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Look at that.
That could be Camilla.
Didn't notice that I have a bear in the background. Oh, well.
Oh, yeah. That's cute.
Well, we're collecting stuff for our first grandchild, which is due in about a little over a month,
Oh, neat.
or a little under a month. April 5th is the due date. So.
There's a whole different life now as grandpa.
Yep. I've been warned about that.
In a good way, or?
Oh yeah, I'm sure they meant well, but no, it'll be cool. It'll be cool. And unless something changes again, we found out that they'll be allowed to have sort of a limited number of visitors too once the baby's born
right.
in the hospital. So that's 2 thumbs up. So.
Well, that's good.
Anyways, we should stop talking about my grandchildren because they're
Hi, Ada.
coming online. So.
Hi, Glenn. Hi. So Glenn, Cal, like Ada and Jess are going to be helping out as technical volunteers for this session as well.
Perfect.
Thanks very much.
Hi, Jess.
Hello.
Jess, your mask is covering your whole face. I can't see a thing. Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Hi, Jess. Boy, Grant better get on here. He better not start having some problems getting on, or I'm going to shoot him.
may I ask a question?
Absolutely. I've got an answer for you too.
Okay, we're doing the text, so just basically if there's errors like in volume or audio or direction, like that it is being videotaped, and so we're just doing like the fine line, like you guys are doing the majors. Okay, good.
Don't worry, Glenn has all the answers.
No, I don't.
MJ, you didn't send them the speaking notes?
My God. How could we work in this kind of environment?
Should we keep our videos off for the presentation?
You could if you wanted to. Glenn, I have the poll questions up now.
Okay, great. I'm looking for Megan. Megan just sent me a note. No, she sent me a text. Oh, darn.
I'm good. I'm here.
Megan
Glenn.
is here.
Nice shirt.
Oh, you are here. Okay, good.
How embarrassing. We wore the same one.
Yeah, I thought
Way to go,
I was
Cal.
the one that had this. As long as there's more people eventually on the call without the shirt than with the shirt.
Yeah. They're kind of different, eh? With these little letters that are sewn on like that.
Mm-hmm.
My,
Kind
my
of cool.
kids like playing with it like a blanket.
Hey, the biggest score is the Yeti. Oh, yes, they're awesome.
Looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keeps adult beverages very cold.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't know that yet.
You'll be an adult soon, Megan. Just
Soon enough.
Wow. So, do you want us to tell them that we're recording it? Is that what you're saying?
I can make that at the beginning.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Where's Grant?
It's only 5:23. He's got lots of time, Glenn.
Yeah, that's enough to make me nervous, though. Of course, he comes on after me, so he's got another 10 minutes or so to play with after that, so he's good. Well, I want to welcome everybody to the True Sport Lives Here Manitoba Summit. We are so excited to have you join us this evening for this summit. It's been a long time in the planning. We were planning to do this long before COVID struck us, but we're so happy to be able to do this now. And now that I think everybody has sort of a handle on the technology and Zoom, and we're really looking forward to a very engaging and an informative informational session tonight. We plan to be able to break out into groups where we can engage you and have you come up with some really good ideas in terms of how you see True Sport fitting within your sport community. But before we do that, my name is Glenn Bergeron, and I'm one of the members of the steering committee of the True Sport Lives Here Manitoba. And I've been asked to in some way moderate between the sessions. We have some great people here from our committee that are going to represent the True Sport Lives Here Manitoba steering committee. And so my job will be to facilitate, and I'm going to start off just quickly by giving you a bit of a historical background of True Sport and True Sport Lives Here Manitoba and True Sport in general. Before I do that, I do want to acknowledge that we are supported by the 2017 Canada Summer Games Legacy Fund. And so we're very pleased to have that support to spread the word of True Sport. To give you a bit of a historical background, I'm going to take you back to 2015. February of 2015, so about 6 years now. We had a summit that was sponsored by the University of Winnipeg. And it was called Attack on Sport, A Changing Landscape. And basically that was a summit of all the partners within sport, the sporting community, the recreation community, the city of Winnipeg, the universities, et cetera. And basically the motivation behind it was that we had seen for quite a number of years now, all of the various newspaper articles that we see on sport in the media, television, radio, press, et cetera. And it was started to gnaw at us essentially, because all we were hearing about all the sensationalism things are things like bullyism and abuse in sport and concussion, all these negative things, and we weren't hearing about all the good news stories that we were all experiencing. So we thought we would have this summit, bring everybody together and talk about this issue, the fact that sport was being attacked, and in fact many people were responding with their feet by not registering kids in sport, and there was a decline in registration in sport. And so we had this summit, and it was very well attended and very, very productive in terms of the discussion that we had. And one of the things that caught my attention, Dan Lett, who was one of our keynote speakers from the Winnipeg Free Press, one of the things he asked during his presentation, he said, we should not be asking the question, why are things getting worse? Instead, we should be asking the question, why aren't things getting better? And essentially what he did was throw out a challenge to us and say, I'm in the media and I see all these negative things. But why aren't we seeing all the good things? Why aren't they getting better? And at the end of the summit, it took a lot of planning and everything else to do. And I was pretty tired by the time and very happy with the outcome of that initiative that the University of Winnipeg had done. And Calvin Hawley, one of our committee members, saw me that night and said, okay, well, what do we do next? And I'm just totally exhausted. And he says, what do you mean? I go, what do you mean we do next? Well, we got to keep going. Like, we got to do this. So we ended up having to form this committee, the True Sport Lives Here committee. And we needed to look and say, what is it that what do we want to do? And we needed to find something that was tangible, something that was measurable, something that was attainable, and something that really fit into the values of what we heard people talk about. And what we found quite easily, actually, was the whole True Sport campaign, the True Sport idea that was being co-sponsored by the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport. And out of that came the True Sport Lives Here Manitoba. And I'll explain sort of the title a little bit. And in a minute, we have come up with a mission statement. We have a strategic committee, strategic planning committee, or steering committee, I should say, of pretty loosely formed group, but we're very cohesive in terms of our message and what we want to see happen. But we're also not so formally tied that we have a chair and we have, we work together by consensus and collectively, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience for us to do. So we have a mission and a vision, and our mission is that Manitoba sport, that making Manitoba sport by intentionally living the true sport principles. And we really like this word intentional, and it comes up in a number of instances. So that's our mission, is to make sport better. And how do we do that? We do it by intentionally living the true sport principles, of which we'll look at in a second. And in our vision, when all is said and done, what we'd like to see and be able to look and say, this is what we now have, is that we want to have a sport in Manitoba that is welcoming, that is fair, that is safe, and that's open to all. And I don't know how anybody can argue any of those things in terms of saying, yeah, those all make sense to me. And they all make sense to us as a steering committee. And that's where we want to move towards. Our strategic plan then was that to start with, we need to brand. We need to know that we need to have every Manitoban know what we mean by true sport and what we mean. And we need them to know that there is such a thing as a True Sport Lives Here Manitoba. And we want to brand that throughout Manitoba. In fact, one of the visions that I have in my head is that when you come into the province of Manitoba, either from Ontario or from Saskatchewan, there's a sign that's up there and says, you are now entering True Sport, you're now entering Manitoba where True Sport lives. I'd love to see a sign like that. And when if and ever a sign like that ever happened, we know that we've branded it in Manitoba. And when we brand things, we then start to we start to move and make some behavioral changes that happen. We start to make inroads into the whole notion of what true sport is going to be. Just to give you a real quick rundown of the people that we have, we've got a pretty diverse group of people across the whole sport and recreation community. So the city of Sport Manitoba, from the provincial perspective, the city of Winnipeg, Canadian Sports Centre representing our elite level athletes. We have L'Oreal School Division and a number of school divisions that are involved. We have Recreation, Physical and Education Manitoba at the high school, at the school level as well. We have, obviously we have Recreation Manitoba. We're so pleased to have Recreation Manitoba, which gives us a whole population that otherwise doesn't really get captured in the traditional sporting community. We have the Winnipeg Newcomer Sport Academy. We have the Winnipeg Aboriginal Sport Achievement Center, Manitoba High Schools Athletic Association, Athletics Manitoba, into Basketball Manitoba, Baseball Manitoba, Manitoba Soccer Association, and then from the academics, the University of Winnipeg and the University of Manitoba, and the Manitoba College Athletic Conference. This is a pretty wide-ranging group. It's amazing when we talk about it at a meeting, we get all these people around the table and we say, somebody's got an idea, and they say, I think that's a great idea. Let's just spread that around. In a day, it gets spread around the whole of the sport community. It's just amazing how we can put something like this together. So we're pretty excited about what we have so far, but we're even more excited about what we can do going forward. Now, quickly, I want to just mention the values and the principles, and you're going to get much more of this in a few minutes. But as far as we're concerned, we think that sport and the sporting community and the recreation community, when we're talking about participation, that we should value fairness. We'll explain that. We should also value excellence. We should be encouraging people to do the best they can and to develop to be the best they can be. We should include everybody. And we should make sure that this is all about fun, because this is the number one reason why people come to sport and to recreation, is to have fun and to be with their friends. So this inclusion and this fun is really quite important values that we want to say that sport, this should help to define sport. How do we do that? To maybe flesh it out a little bit more, then we have these 7 principles. And these 7 principles they're nationally developed. They were developed by a national forum. These are the true sport value, the principles that are presented right across the country. And so we have the first one of go for it. In other words, it really matches up with excellence. Go for it. Try and be the best you can be. It's okay to want to win. It's okay to participate and seek to be the best you can be. Play fair is about making sure that you respect the rules. And we talk about saying what we're more interested in is how you respect the rules and play fair when other people aren't watching you. That's the whole point about developing citizenry. Respect others. So respect your opponent, respect the coach, respect the official, respect the fans, respect everybody who's associated with sport, and look at it as being something that this is a privilege that you have, because all of these people have come together to help make this happen for you. Keeping it fun. So let's make sure that the underlying principle of this is all about making it fun, that I want to go to the sporting environment, to a game or a practice, because I know it's going to be fun. Staying healthy, all kinds of pressures on us to try and go for it without in ways that may not necessarily be healthy for us, either mentally, physically, socially, or spiritually. And include everyone, making sure that we have an opportunity, there's somewhere where everyone can have a part to play in the sport and recreation community and gain the experience and gain the personal development that brings. And certainly after that, the fact that this is a privilege that we have, we need to give back. We need to give back to society. And if you put all of these things together, we're building great citizens. That's really essentially what we're trying to do. And the two quick slides here are going to be, if we put all those principles into one circle and say, from an intentional point of view, that everything we do, be it during practice, games, in the boardroom, with our officials, etc., everything we do, everyone has to enhance one of these things, and none of them should be left out. And there should be, sometimes you'll notice that some of these circles are smaller than others, and they'll change and grow depending on the situation that you're in. So it may be that one practice, it's all about keeping it fun. On another project, it's all about, okay, let's get down to some technical stuff because we want to make sure we got some excellence here. But all of them are all in this circle, as opposed to saying the whole point of this thing is winning, 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 winning. And I don't care if you guys can get away with, getting away with a cheap shot or getting away with tripping somebody or finding a way, an edge that might be stretching the rule. That's okay to do as long as we win. Just don't get caught, or staying healthy. If that's out of the picture, that I really don't care about my athlete mentally, emotionally, physically, and I'm willing to turn a blind eye to things like drugs in sport, for example, because it's important for us to win, then we have lost the true value of sport. And we could say that for any one of these that might be the bigger circle, that might throw something else out. And these all have to be within the circle, and they have to be within perspective. I'm going to give you quickly, this is just about a 2-minute little video, then I'm done. This is just a video that's most recently done by True Sport in Ottawa. And it just talks about a recipe for true sport.
A house without a solid foundation develops cracks and never becomes as strong as it could be. Now just imagine sport as a house. What will happen if cracks begin to appear in its foundation? These cracks in the foundation represent the threats that make sport vulnerable. So Canada, how do we build a stronger foundation for sport? Fortunately, a recipe for good sport exists. It's called True Sport, and its ingredients are the 7 True Sport principles. Mix those 7 principles together in the right balance and proportion, and voila, we've got good sport. True Sport and its 7 principles create a solid foundation by providing programs and tools to guard against the threats while maximizing the positive benefits. From coast to coast to coast, we all have a role to play in ensuring good sport becomes a reality. Visit truesport.ca and join thousands of Canadians who are bringing true sport to life.
I usually refer to this whole concept. I refer to this whole concept as motherhood and apple pie. How can you argue with any of that kind of stuff in terms of the importance of what sport can do to enhance the well-being of our children, which are our greatest assets, who ultimately become our citizens? And that's really the responsibility we all have to take. We're going to move on to the next part of the program. I'm just going to give you a quick little heads up that at the end of the day, the challenge that we're going to ask at the very end of all is that we're going to ask you to consider whether or not this is something you really want to be associated with, and whether or not you're willing to commit to pledging. So I'm just going to give you a quick little heads up. It happened to be a slide that we have in here. So I'm going to bring that up. We'll be discussing that in more detail at the end, but that's a quick little heads up for you. Right now, I'm so pleased to be able to present the next part of our agenda, which is our keynote speaker. And I'm not going to introduce the keynote speaker. I'm going to invite Grant McManus to come and introduce our keynote speaker. He has a special tie to our keynote speaker. And I just want to say that Grant is a member of the steering committee, the True Sport Lives Here steering committee. He's formally most recently retired from Louis School Division, but Louis School Division, thanks to all the work that Grant has done, is a leader in this province in terms of promoting true sport in the school system. And we'll speak a little bit about the work that he's done with the True Sport, the junior champions, which has been phenomenal. And through his experiences, and I think he's been an inspiration to the people that he's touched in the school systems. And we want to introduce you to one of those people. And I'm going to give the floor to Grant to do that.
Thanks, Glenn. And welcome everybody. It's great to be part of Rec Connections conference again. I had the opportunity to present, well, it seems like another lifetime ago when I was with the department and working on the grade 11 and 12. So just can't say enough about the great work of the recreation people across the country. It's an important part of our delivery system. Just a couple of things that I'm used to kind of doing in terms of protocols, etc. With presentations. So I'd like to start with our Treaty 1 land acknowledgement, where I reside in Louis School Division, and where the Office of Rec Connections is at 145 Pacific in the Sport for Life building downtown Winnipeg. We are located on Treaty 1 territories, the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. The time that you folks to join us tonight is much appreciated, and I know that there are people from across the province, and if I'm understanding it correctly, there's also students from the Faculty of Rec Management and perhaps some students from programs at Red River. So we certainly welcome them as they move forward into their professional careers here in delivery of sport and recreation across the province. One of the things I just wanted to point out, I just made some notes as I typically do, is the presentation tonight will be in full on in English, but all the True Sport materials, the True Sport website, and maybe one of us, and at some point we will fire up the True Sport link on the chat, is fully bilingual, because if you weren't aware, the True Sport office is housed within the Canadian Centre for Ethics and Sport in Ottawa. It is a strong component of what they do out of that office, and it's gone from one or two people to, I believe there are 4 or 5 people working just on True Sport now. So it is gaining momentum, and I'm pleased to be part of the great work that's being done here with True Sport Lives Here Manitoba, because we're the only province that has a provincial initiative like this. So, a large part is, the guidance and the leadership of people like Glenn and Cal, who you're going to hear from in a couple of minutes. Part of this is context setting before we kind of turn it over to Carter. My involvement with True Sport was, as Casey from the office would say, was kind of serendipitous. I was looking at some information on True Sport with some of the leadership programs I was working on when I was working in Louis School Division. It goes back about 4.5, 5 years ago now. And I would always involve high school students to the best I could in helping out with some of our divisional initiatives. And I just thought that we could do more for what they were contributing to our programs in Louis Riel. And I was familiar with True Sport, and to be quite honest, I was looking for a replacement for Fair Play. Fair Play had become, while I respected the principles of fair play, it had just got to a point in my work and in my circles that had become kind of a negative term. And so when I looked further into True Sport, I really appreciated the work that had been done, the kind of the refresh look, even, and including the principles that had been included in the original Fair Play Commission from the late 80s. So I'd phoned Casey at the office just out of the blue, and I said, I'm looking to develop a leadership program in Louis Riel. I would like to be able to use the term True Sport because I have this idea for a True Sport Ambassador program. And she goes, well, if you're interested, we're just writing a grant proposal to develop a pilot program for high school. We're going to call it the True Sport Junior Champions Workshop. So off we went to the races. So that was in September of 4.5 years ago. That following February, Casey and her colleague Liz came to Winnipeg. We ran our first True Sport Junior Champions Workshop with 55 high school students from across the 7 high schools in Louis Riel, and our speaker tonight, Carter Wall, was one of them. So that's a bit of a long-winded intro context to how I got to know Carter Wall. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Carter Wall. Carter is a current grade 12 student at Windsor Park Collegiate in the Louis Riel School Division. He has been with us in our True Sport Junior Champions Ambassador Program in Louis Riel since its inception, in the very first workshop with Casey and Liz and myself. So Carter, it's great to have you with us. How are you doing tonight?
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for this.
That's
It's
good.
an amazing opportunity, and thanks everybody for coming out.
Yeah.
I guess
Maybe what I'll do, Carter, is, because the format for people is, when we got talking about this with Cal and Glenn and Carter, this is basically going to be a conversation between Carter and I, kind of right from kind of when we got started to where we're at today. Just kind of help him, but he's not used, or he is used actually to speaking in front of adults. In fact, before we jump too far into this, Carter was eager to get involved right from the get-go. At the end of the first year when he got introduced, he was a grade 9 student. And at the end of the school year, I had the good fortune to be able to have a coach's reception for all of our coaches in Louis Riel School Division. And this is when we were first kind of launching True Sport in the school division. And my boss supervisor, Irene Nordheim, who many of you may know, we thought, well, what better way than, to have it come from one of the participants. And I had a conversation with Carter, and I just kind of threw it out there and said, I don't need an answer now. You take some time to think about it. He goes, I don't need time to think, Grant. He says, I'm in. And, so from one workshop to one experience that we're going to get into in our conversation to 3 months later, and he was speaking in front of 250 coaches from across our 39 schools, talking about his experience. So he is well suited to have this conversation with me tonight and share his thoughts and experiences with True Sports. So again, welcome, Carter.
Thank you so much.
And maybe just kind of as we get settled into this, Carter, we've kind of rehearsed this a little bit, but we'll be fresh because there may be some things that come up in the conversation. So if anybody has questions, we have allowed some time at the end for question and answer. If I could ask Glenn or Cal, I do have kind of the chat up on my screen, but I'm going to focus on my conversation with Carter. If I notice there's a question come up, please, put it in the chat as it comes up, rather than maybe trying to hold on to it at the end and then kind of missing kind of what did I want to ask. We'll either try to address it as we are in the conversation, or we'll come back to it at the end and do our best to answer questions, if that's okay with everybody. All right. So Carter, like I said, I've known you now for about 4.5 years, since you were in grade 9 at Windsor Park.
Yeah, it's been quite a long time.
Experience with True Sport. Maybe give us a little bit of background on what your sport involvement was.
My sport involvement ever since I've been young was hockey. My brother played hockey when he was young, and I saw that as an opportunity to play for myself. I played hockey since age 5 or 6. Continued playing till about last year. I played a little bit of rugby. Ireland is an opportunity. I am also played basketball, played community center, and community centers in another school, and play a little bit of volleyball. Just anything that comes my way, I guess.
Okay. And in those different sport experiences, did you have the opportunity, either as team captain or any other kind of role, kind of that you might define as a leadership role, either in sport or in school?
Ever since I've been young, I've always appreciated leadership positions. I always tried to put myself out there in many ways that I can, I guess. Ever since to being a patrol captain at age 5 and 6, to just 2-3 years ago to being an assistant captain on my AA hockey team. So I appreciate leader positions in any way I can, and just try and help out.
And if I recall one of our conversations, Carter, I think you also said that you were a bit of a peer mentor to a student at Windsor Park, if not General Vanier. Can you talk a little bit about that?
There was a student ever since I've been young. His name is Evan Kifley. He has autism and he's an amazing student, but doesn't have the best verbal skills. Doesn't have a way to communicate as well as everybody takes for granted these days. It's just an amazing opportunity to see how he was, and I just connected quite a while since kindergarten. I've known his family for a long time. I went to Windsor Park, was in, it's always been around, and opportunity a year or so ago to go golf out how he was outside of school and how his family kind of played the part with him, to his dad who learned how to golf because Evan loved golf so much, and his dad wanted to learn how to golf so he could take his son golfing, and I got to go with him. So that was an amazing opportunity.
That's awesome. Just not from your perspective, Carter, here, but MJ in the background, I know it's a good thing we've got the subtext going because it is picking things up. We are getting a little bit of temporary freezing, Carter, and it may be happening with people seeing or hearing me as well. We are probably in the prime time of people accessing Wi-Fi signal, so we'll hope we can carry out. So anyways, just wanted to acknowledge that. Okay, we're going to jump in a little bit further to the actual True Sport content now. So as I said at the outset, back, well, it was actually almost 4 years ago, last month. It was in February, and Liz and Casey rolled into Winnipeg, and we hosted our first True Sport workshop. I didn't know Carter. I didn't know I knew some of the 55, high school students through, work with high school athletics, but I rely an awful lot on my high school, or relied on. I still can't, separate myself from the non-working yet. I relied a lot on the high school phys ed staff to connect with young people, help me with the sport delivery system in the Louis Riel School Division. And so my request to them was, okay, this is what I'm looking to do. Looking for students who you feel might already possess leadership, or you might think that this might be something that they could latch on to. It would be a good experience. And so my question to you, Carter, is when you were approached by your phys ed teacher, phys ed teacher and or your basketball coach, I believe was Mr. Collier at the time.
Yeah.
When he approached you to attend that workshop, what was your initial thoughts?
My initial thought on that workshop was yes, 100%. I like to take opportunities that I think would further my knowledge, and I thought that was going to be an amazing opportunity that was presented to me. So
awesome. Okay, and then we roll forward to when we have everybody checking in. As you attended the workshop, kind of what were your thoughts or feelings about kind of what was going on? Because to be probably quite honest, the phys ed staff read the email, they know they needed students, they solicited students, you said yes, you roll in, probably not knowing a whole lot about True Sport, and kind of as you got settled in, talk to us a little bit about, okay, were you in the right place? What were your thoughts about kind of what was going on and the people around you?
well, we showed up to the workshop, and it was really interesting because I've seen some people there I recognized, a few friends of mine that I've seen before, but it just looked like a general group of athletes who had been leaders in their high schools, and their coaches reached out to them and said this would be an amazing opportunity for the workshop. As the workshop got going, I came there with a fresh mind, and I wanted to try to learn as much as I can. It was just amazing to me how well True Sport was, and how the opportunities just were able to present themselves where I could be there and be able to listen in on Liz and Casey being able to kind of pitch what True Sport was to us. And I thought that was a really good opportunity to hear how this program that I had never heard of before was able to be presented in Manitoba of all places. So,
okay. And just so people have a little bit of idea and context again, so really this Junior Champions workshop was introducing the students to the values and the principles, which we're going to do with you a little bit later tonight. And getting them to understand kind of where they were coming from as student athletes, what resonated with them in terms of these values and principles. And also, I remember clearly Casey talking to them about finding ways to help them tell their story, was really what it was about. And so lots of small group discussions and some activities to kind of really get them engaged in that. What were one or two of the things that that stood out for you from that workshop, Carter?
There was one thing that stuck out to me a lot, was that poll we did with all the sticky notes. Casey and Liz, they asked us to put on a sticky note if you liked a coach based on how they made you feel, or if you won with them, or did any sort of winning championship stuff like that. And everybody started slowly writing down and then putting up their sticky notes, and you could see everybody going, and then the dust settled, and Liz and Casey started to talk about it. And I think there was 100% of the sticky notes on how a coach made you feel. And that was a big eye-opening to me, because I'd known so many buddies who won championships with their hockey teams or whatever it was, and they always talked about it. But your favorite coach was how they made you feel, and that really took to heart for me. I've been through quite a few coaches and quite a few coaching styles, and I just thought that was a really eye-opening opportunity for me to see how everybody else sees it too.
Okay. Before I forget, in our previous conversation, you said there was a pretty significant individual in your life that you thought of when we were, and I'm not sure if that was the person you were thinking of when you were filling that sticky out. If I recall correctly, it was your grade 5 teacher.
Yeah.
So what was it about that individual that kind of, came to the forefront, and when we were either you were invited to come or throughout the workshop, Carter?
In grade 5, I'd been through quite a few teachers that my brother had been through before, so I knew a little bit about them. But in grade 5, we got a brand new teacher. His name was Mr. Barassa, or Mr. B. And he immediately got us all. The first activity we did was we cut out, we got a color and a letter, and we had to draw whatever we wanted, whatever it was, and it was treat others the way you want to be treated. And he hung that right above the classroom so you could see it every day, and you could see all your letters. Actually, until he moved schools a couple years ago, it was still there to that day when I went back and saw it. But that message really stuck with me ever since then, was treat others the way you want to be treated. And he was just an amazing role model at the time to get to see. And I always stuck with that, treat others the way you want to be treated.
Great. I will pass that on. I had the great pleasure of working literally side by side with Mr. B from September to December. He's a master teacher, and he'll be happy to know that you've been a keynote at our conference, Carter. I will always share that. One of the things, and this is for the audience, and then it's going to be a question. So had some interactions with the students throughout the workshop. And at some point near the end of the workshop, Carter approached me, again, introduced himself. And my quote was, Carter essentially asked, he says, Grant, whatever you need, whatever I can do, let me know. And this was like two and a half hours into a workshop with students that I didn't know. And so that really kind of, it's still a highlight for me, Carter. That's one of the reasons why probably you and I have stayed in touch.
Yeah.
But what was it that prompted you as a grade 9 student, not knowing who I was, to be courageous enough to come forward to offer your services in whatever way, shape, or form you thought you could?
I've always tried to put myself out there, as I said before, but that workshop really spoke to me, and it was me being young grade 9 student. I wanted to find my path and how I could help in the community, how I could help at school. just a way to get myself out there. And you were, I would say, an easy enough person to approach. During that workshop, you spoke very kindly about the school and your participation with it, and uh, I saw you as a person that I could connect with and be able to maybe help me further too. And I wanted to help out in True Sport as much as I could, and I thought it would be an amazing opportunity just to be able to let you know that, hey, I can be there. And I never thought that it would turn into this, but thank you so much.
No, it's been absolutely my pleasure, Carter. And, many of the other students that have gone through the program. Now, two of the initiatives that you were directly involved in, and again, a little bit of background is, one of the reasons I wanted to bring Liz and Casey in and get involved with True Sport is to give something back to students in the system. We ask an awful lot of students to get involved, and sometimes it's for the right reasons, sometimes it's easy labor, I'm going to be quite honest. And I really wanted whatever I had an opportunity to be involved with to be a quality experience for these students and kind of the value added piece. And I know Carter has taken me up on it. And I'm pleased to do that for him in terms of be a reference. And so our commitment for all of these student, I guess, junior champions is the right term to use, is if they felt that this was a place for them, we could find an opportunity within our divisional initiatives. Some of the ones we were doing are running the junior NBA, which we will talk about with Carter here in a minute. Our hockey introductory program that we're now in, our Louis Ells in 4 schools, started out with Hockey Manitoba and then has developed into the Bauer First Shift program. We did a pilot project with Rugby Canada with rookie rugby. We were working with our high school co-op ed students and Special O on unified games, which Carter's also been involved in. So with all of those, there's the adults and then there are the students that can be involved. And, I've been around long enough, as many of you have on this call, knowing that there's always more than one right answer. And the energy and the perspectives that these young people have and bring to any of these opportunities is just, awesome. But I wanted to make sure that they felt that their time was valued. And so if they made their commitment to any one of our initiatives or any others that they could bring forward, I would work with their phys ed staff or the person in charge of that program and write them a reference letter and talk to them about how they could use that reference letter and their experience in developing a resume, and then that conversation in any subsequent interviews. So that's a little bit of background there. And Carter specifically was involved in our junior MBA program at Frontenac School with grade 3 to 4 students. And then our high school unified ultimate rugby, which is, kind of a combination of ultimate with a disc and touch rugby between our students in our co-op ed program and our regular generic athletes, and was really an awesome experience. And Carter, every year he said, Grant, when are we starting the junior NBA? When are we starting the junior NBA? He really liked it. So what was it about those two that you were involved in that excited you? And I had a couple questions. What did you learn from these opportunities? Maybe we'll start with that.
I just want to say one thing. Thank you to Sharon for that comment. I appreciate it. Those opportunities were, I played rugby during that conversation. During the rookie rugby, my rugby coach, Chris Chapman, kind of asked us if we could help out with that program and for reffing, and I had no problem with it at all. But the junior NBA was brand new for me because I was getting involved in basketball myself, trying to coach in the community, playing at some of the community centers in Windsor Park. And I just thought it'd be an amazing opportunity to go to a school and hang out with little kids for lunch. That was pretty fun for me. So
good. And then because that was the result of being involved in the True Sport workshop, how are you able to kind of bring those two together? So the experience in working with young people and peers at the high school and that True Sport message.
Every start of junior MBA, we did a little sit together. We'd bring all the kids in a circle, and we would say what the lesson was going to be about. So today we were going to do our lesson today was going to be about respect. We would just pick one of the True Sport principles to talk about for the first minute or two before we get the kids moving. So we would say we'd go respect. So I would stand up and I'd talk a little about respected sport, kind of what it means for me. We let the kids say if they had any ideas or wanted to chime in for a sec, and then we'd get to our lesson and continue going. But True Sport really brought a way for me to make sport more fun and about something than just going out and getting active. About respecting others, playing fair, going for it. It was just a big thing for me to be able to have something to fall back on and I guess teach to others.
Okay, awesome. So the next couple of questions are going to be around the values and the principles. Glenn introduced our audience to those earlier tonight. So from the 4 values of excellence, inclusion, fairness, and fun, is there any of those 4 values that has any more significance than the others for you, Carter?
Yeah, as I talked about before, it'd be inclusion. And I always think back on how Evan was kind of discluded in some situations because of his autism. And I thought that was a big thing for me, was how to be able to include everybody. I've always been, I see anybody staying outside, hey, come play. Like everybody's here. We're all playing, so why don't you come join us? It's always been trying to include others and try to make sure everybody has fun. I know that personally, if I was staying on the sidelines and just watching, it's not a lot of fun just watching your friends go have fun. So it's always nice to get everybody involved.
Awesome. Okay, and then start to dive a little bit deeper into this. So the same question regarding the principles of True Sport. Is there 1 or 2 that have more significant for you? So our 7 principles: give back, go for it, stay healthy, respect others, play fair, include everyone, and keep it fun. Is there one?
I guess I could talk a little bit about, I'm just going to talk about stay healthy for a little bit quickly. For me, I guess I would say stay healthy, respect others, and go for it. Stay healthy for me, more especially now because of my past history with concussions. But I would have to say respect others and go for it. That's a big thing for me, is I guess being a player and being a ref in multiple sports and situations, especially being a hockey ref. Respect others is kind of a big thing for me. So, but also going for it, that's a big thing you don't hear a lot of people talk about anymore. It's more just, hey, let's include everybody, let's respect others, let's get a sport to a point where we can have fun with it. But you do have to go for it sometimes, to take those opportunities, win those, make the, I guess, plays that you haven't made before. Just be to the best of your ability and be able to play the best of you that you can be, and just go for your opportunities, go for the shot, go for that one pass that you don't know if you're going to make or not. And I thought that was a big thing for me.
Awesome. Well, Carter, it's an anniversary we're all coming up on. I believe it's this Friday. We'll be a year into COVID. So you've experienced school disruption last spring, and now in your grade 12 year. Most school and recreation activities have been shut down, although we're starting to see things open up again. But a question for you: when we get out of this, and we know that we will, what is it that you're hoping that you can get back to doing that you can't do now?
Actually, funny enough, me and my brother had this conversation a couple of days ago, and it was about how we wanted to coach a team together. That's going to be our goal for when COVID is over. Is he had talked about a little bit too, that he's now 22 as of February 13th, so a little bit ago. But the fact that me and him would go coach a team of young kids together and show them our way of hockey and how we played, So I think that's gonna be a really fun way to do things, and I'm really excited for that to happen.
Oh, that's awesome. And I know everyone here will, you know, the recruitment letters be coming your way for coaching, Carter. It's been an absolute pleasure being able to have this conversation with you, Carter, you know, with Rec Connections. And, you know, we're gonna, and there's some questions starting to come up, and we'll open the chat line and the mics for a Q&A. But before we do that, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience before we kind of dive into the questions?
Yeah, just one more thing. I just want to say thank you to everybody for having me out here. It's an amazing opportunity. Thank you for coming and listening to me talk. But I just want to say thank you to, I guess, MJ, Glenn, and you, Grant, for this, I guess, including me in this conversation. And thank you, audience, for coming out to watch.
Well, that's awesome. I see, you know, there's some, it's not a question, it's just a comment. So again, Carter, you're doing great things, and wish you the best in your present, future adventures.
Thank you so much.
And, you know, whether you want to, I don't think the group is that big. I would invite that if anybody is wishing to ask a question, just feel free maybe just to open up your mic, or if you would rather just put it in the chat. But we've got a few minutes. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is awesome. So you know, we can spend a few more minutes here with Carter. So does anybody have any questions?
If anybody's got any questions or mics, be happy to talk.
Carter, I have a question for you.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Zeta. I actually, I just want to know, what do you plan, like, what is your like next step, like in sports? Like, do you plan to get into a community coaching program, or like, are you going to university? Like, what's your direction?
My direction right now, actually, I can say thank you to Grant. I'm 18, so I'm finishing school after this year. I just got a job at Murray Chevrolet. But my goal is to get involved into coaching in the community. I like to help out, and as I said, my concussions present themselves that I cannot play sport right now. So I think coaching would be an amazing opportunity for me, and I would love to hang out with kids and show them my way of hockey and my way of sport.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Carter. My name's Emily. I have a question for you.
Yes.
What do your peers think about this work? And how do you try to involve them with it?
That's a very good question, actually, and kind of funny you talked about it. When Grant and MJ came to me for this conference call, my instinct was to go to my peers. I put a message out on my Snapchat just saying, hey, I have a few questions for anybody if you want to answer them. And I got quite a few responses from a lot of athletes who talked, and I asked them the same questions that Grant asked me. How do you think that younger kids can get involved in the community? What was your favorite coach experience and why? And what would get you out in the community to be able to go play, go coach? And a lot of them had really good feedback. My buddy in Selkirk, who is playing for Selkirk hockey right now, or was, I guess, talked about his favorite coach was his new coach, and how he would get involved if there was more programs that would be mentioned to him. We're busy kids and we have school and sports and stuff, but we're always looking to give back and always looking to, I guess, get involved in our sport, especially the sport that we have so much fun in, and coaching kids. They all said that if there's programs that would give them either a high school credit, which you can get with volunteer hours, but were just presented to them in their schools, that they would get involved and get out there.
Yeah, and if I can just add, Carter made and I just want to emphasize one of the points he made is high school students are busy, and they're busy doing a lot of good things, and sometimes they just need to be presented because there's so many things going on around them, and they're more than willing to take up the challenge to get involved. And that's been my experience with True Sport, with our divisional initiative since its inception. Is with our hockey program, we were in 4 schools. We had over probably 80 ice times that we had to fill. We had our hockey instructors and the folks from Bauer, but it also helped to have high school students on the ice, working one-on-one or in small groups, and you know, with our unified sports games. And you know, they just added, like I said earlier, a level of, I guess, probably comfort for students. It was a good experience for them. And you know, as the healthy living coordinator, trying to provide opportunities for them to gain experience. Because I know young people, when they are trying to get that first job, you know, as an employer, when I was hiring referees or any employer, you're always looking for someone with experience. And these young people are in a kind of a rock and a hard place between, you know, they can't get experience without a job. They can't get a job without experience. Yes, volunteering, but it's not necessarily easy for them to find. So if we present it in the right way and support them, and that's kind of the biggest thing is, sure, it's one to do the one and done and do the workshop. But we know that that's not the best way to do anything. So if we can continue to provide support so that once they do go out, and I tried to follow up with these students and check in with them. And, you know, I remember going to Carter and his colleagues at Frontenac when they were running the junior NBA and just saying, like, how's it going? Do you have questions? Like, how are the kids for you? They were there to run a program. They weren't there to be the disciplinarians. And so I guess that would be something I would ask for any of the audience here, that, you know, for the youth that you have or will have involved, you know, they're more than willing to take up the challenge to be involved and give back. But we need to make sure that the setting and the environment are right for them to be successful and to provide them with the continued support so that they will keep coming back.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that actually. We are kids. We do have lots of things on our plate, but we also love sport and we love helping out. As Grant said, Grant has always been checking in with me. He's a great person for this. But there's a lot of kids out there right now who can't get jobs. And if they had that volunteer experience or a reference, say, hey, I'll stick up for you and you can use me as a reference, put me down, and I would talk to your employer and talk good things about you. I think that's a really good confidence booster for us too, to be able to say, hey, we have this back, that we can hand this resume in fully knowing that somebody else is supporting us as well. And I'd like to bring up the next question. I think of True Sport is an amazing program. As I said, when I went to the workshop, it really spoke to me out and just spoke how sport isn't just being active. That's how I looked at it for a long time, but there's a lot more to sport. And for any peers who are interested, I've talked to a few of them too, especially people who would love to get involved in sport. I have a few buddies at Dakota for the hockey program and stuff. And it's a lot of good things that I would always say, and I do have the connection with Grant, so that's a good thing for me too. I would say go for it. As the principals say themselves, take the opportunity and enjoy it, because you'll get experience in different situations, and we're young kids, so as much experience as possible is amazing. Is there any other questions or people who would like to talk?
Well, I'm going to step in for just a minute then, and just say a great big thank you to you, Carter, for giving us your time and so much wisdom, so many good things to have said from somebody that is as young as you are, and we're looking forward to bigger and better things from you. Yeah. So we really we thank you very much for agreeing to come to speak, and I think and I want to thank Grant as well. Grant is a leader in the community, but he's also an inspiration to young people like you. And really, this is what it's all about. It's all about reaching out. All these principles and all these values are all things that are the things that we want to bring to you, and we want you to enjoy, and we want you to experience. And it's not really about us; it's about you. And but it's also about the fact that we have real good leadership and people there who can inspire you. And so I want to thank you, Carter, again. But I do also want to point out that Grant has been a real leader in the community. As I indicated at the front end of this, he's now retired from the Rail School Division, but I'm told that he's busier than ever now, because finally people can actually seek out his expertise and seek out his wisdom for things other than other things that are work related. So I want to thank the two of you for for really doing such a wonderful job for this the whole summit and really getting it started on the right foot. And I think Grant, maybe did you want to say something about the gift or anything?
Yeah. We just have such tremendous support from the national office. And so Carter, I talked to you before, but just on behalf of everybody again, absolute thrill to have you join us tonight. I'll make arrangements with you and Mr. Indome at the school. There's a little True Sport speaker package here, gift for you.
Thank you so much.
I'll make arrangements here in the not so distant future to get you over at the school on behalf of the organizing committee and everyone that attended the summit here tonight, Carter. So again, just absolutely thrilled that you can join us. Wish you all the best in this final sprint to the finish of your grade 12 graduating school year. And this will not be the last time that we are in touch about True Sport.
I just want to put one more thing out there. Thank you for all the comments and all the questions. I appreciate it. I'm sure if you need any more further questions with me, you can always get my information. I would be down to help anybody in any way possible if you have any questions or any further knowledge that you need to be talked about. Thank you, Glenn, MJ, and Grant. Grant, you've been an inspiration to me for a long time, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Glenn and MJ, for hosting this and getting me involved. I appreciate it so much, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Carter. Have a good night, man.
You
Okay,
too.
cheers.
Bye.
So to continue on with a bit of the facilitation of the rest of the evening, we're now doing more engaging. I think this was a really great opportunity for us to really hear from the target audience. It's about the kids. It's about the participants, and we really need to know what they're thinking and and how they respond to some of this. And I think that was a great opportunity. Now what we want to do is engage all of you amongst each other. We want to give you an opportunity to get to know each other, but we also want you to learn from each other. We want you to share with each other. And so the next portion of this program is going to be to set up 2 breakout rooms. Now, when we put this project together and we looked at some of the budget, we actually had money set aside to do we were going to do a wine and cheese, and that's how we were going to get people together. And so we said, we can't do a wine and cheese. And actually MJ's the one who said, well, why can't we? We can still do an MG. So we said, well, let's do a virtual wine and cheese. So I'm going to give you a few minutes. We're going to give you about 5 minutes or so to, if you want to go and get yourself a little glass of wine and you want to have a little plate of cheese, let's make this more relaxing. Because we want you to interact. We want you to talk. If you want to grab a soft drink, whatever it might be, let's get ourselves set up as if this was going to be a wine and cheese, and come back in about 5 minutes time to do the second portion of the program. And while we're doing that, I mentioned that we were going to profile a little bit about Louis-Riel School Division's project. And we do have a video that comes from the Louis-Riel workshop that they did. And I know that Grant, you have it keyed up and ready to roll?
I do. Yeah.
So while you guys are dispersing and moving about for the next 5 minutes or so, we'll play this video and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Yeah, so just again, the video is a result of the work that we did with Casey and Liz, kind of trying to capture the junior champions. So without further ado, I will just need to find it, of course. And I had it all queued up. Good Lord, Grant. Oh, there we go. Enjoy. It's just a little over 3 minutes, Glenn.
Yeah, Grant, I can't hear anything from the video. It could be that your headphones are still plugged in.
So someone suggested that there's options in Zoom to share computer audio. Can anybody direct me through that?
Yep. So, Grant, if you stop sharing your screen,
Yep.
and then so start the sharing again, but before you select the video, there's a sort of tick box on your left-hand side at the bottom that says optimize for video.
There we go. All right. Sorry, folks.
Making ethical decisions, making decisions that we can be proud of. What the hope is that these principles and the values that you guys have talked about and who you want to be as a person and how you want to be remembered, that's what's helping you drive those decisions. So at the end of the day, in 20 years from now, when we ask those students who is the most memorable coach, they're thinking about you guys.
Being able to touch the lives of some of these kids through true sport is quite a nice feeling. The best coach I ever had was one that wasn't about winning, and that coach is still on my resume today. The lifelong lessons that you can teach some of these kids and be a mentor in their lives is way more important than, holding a trophy at the end of the year.
We have such an opportunity. We can't just say, yeah, we'll just hope it'll be a good experience. Because if we don't make sure that it is, do you think that person's ever coming back to ever play again? Probably not, right? So we have to be really intentional about making sure that sport looks like this if we want it to be really good.
The true sport principles are really good because as an athlete, sometimes we forget about them and sometimes, we get so caught up in the competitiveness, but we need to realize that, yeah, you do have to give back.
When everyone's respecting each other, the sport is as true as it can be. True sport really gave me a new aspect as to how I will conduct myself in sport.
I think it's fabulous that we're empowering the youth of today. We want to really try and promote the intentionality that goes on with bringing forward all of those values and principles. So it's a big reach, and we want to reach down as low as we can, and it's far better to have young people speak to young people.
It really fits within our divisional priority of citizenship. I'm a firm believer that our role is about building better people, and we use various curriculums and programs to do that. This is one of them. It's a really good opportunity for our high school students.
It gives me a sense that I'm giving back and helping younger kids have fun and achieve their goals.
If I had these opportunities when I was in school, you think of how much further we would be with leadership and development and all that. So it's great that it's starting, but it's too bad it didn't start a lot sooner, yeah.
We can talk about it here in this really safe place where we're talking about values and we're talking about principles, but when you're in that position, that's when it really matters to make those really tough decisions.
The philosophy behind it is really about building character and building healthy relationships. They've come so far in a short period of time. It's rewarding for them, it's rewarding for the adults that are involved, and everybody's having a great time learning together. It's awesome.
It's not about making, the next superstar NHL player. It's about them learning all those character traits that they're going to need when they get to the workforce and showing them that they can contribute to society and be good citizens and get a good job and do all the things that people do in the world.
You mute it yourself.
I know. Oh, now and you know what? Somebody said the most famous phrases of the day is, "Can you hear me now?" Yeah, or I muted myself. So I am back, and I hope all of you are back. I hope that you've all taken the opportunity. This is the first time I do a webinar, and I actually have wine and cheese, and so I'm going to enjoy this portion of the presentation. And while we have just a few minutes, I just wanted to introduce to you some of the people that are on the steering committee who happen to be here today. We have a number of them who weren't able to come today, but I will be talking to you in a few minutes about Calvin Hawley, and you've already met Grant. And we also have Megan Foster here right now. Megan is from Sport Manitoba. We're very, very pleased to have Megan. She's new to our committee, replacing Janet McMahon, and she's already made a mark on the True Sport committee. So we're very pleased to have her here. And we also have Shane Ray here as well. And Shane is with Manitoba High Schools Association. So we're really pleased to have the high schools group joining our team here, because of the fact that we get this much breadth of reach in terms of trying to get in touch with athletes at the high school level and the sporting community, and hopefully be able to draw some champions from there as well. So we have a really great group of people. If you're thinking of it as an organization, if you think that this is something, I know I saw somebody ask the question, if you're thinking about it as an organization to join the association, you're welcome. It's an inclusive group. We meet roughly once a month. We've been meeting COVID, but ironically, we were meeting electronically prior to the COVID. So we are seasoned veterans of this, because some of the people were just having difficulty, particularly we had a representative, Casey, was in Ottawa, so we always met with her virtually. And then a few people would not be able to get to the meeting in time. So we did that. So ultimately we did a total virtual one. We have this works pretty good, because it's just a good use of our time. And then COVID hit, and this better work pretty good, because it's really the only way we're going to be able to communicate. So we've been doing that, and it's been worked out really well. So we try and minimize the impact on your day, and really trying to maximize the experience and the reach that we have throughout the whole of our sporting community. So I'll speak a little bit more to that, I guess, as the time goes on. You have all were given some homework when you registered for this particular summit, and that was to look at values and develop look at the whole list of values and try and pare them down to see what values really mean a lot to you. And so this next exercise is all going to be about the values portion, about the homework that you've done. And I'm really pleased to be able to introduce you to Calvin Hawley, who will be the facilitator of this particular portion. And before we break out into the breakout groups. And Calvin is as well, is a former member of the Department of Education, just brand new, newly retired as well. But Calvin came as a representative of Baseball Manitoba initially, and he continues to represent Baseball Manitoba. They've asked him, even though he's not part of their board, to continue to represent them on our True Sports. So we're really pleased to have that connection still, to maintain that. And we're also very pleased to have Calvin's awareness and leadership and recommendations. And as I indicated at the front end of this thing, I think he's largely responsible for pushing the wheel down the hill and getting the momentum going. And so we're very pleased that Calvin continues to be a member of our group over the last 5 years. And so he's agreed to take on the role of facilitating this next section. So Calvin, I will leave the floor to you.
Great. Thanks, Glenn. Wow, that was quite the introduction. Thank you for that. As Glenn said, that first session, that Attack on Sport session, kind of, there, little, I don't know if it was voices, bells, something going off in the back of my head as we went through. And by the end of that night, it was clear to me we needed to keep this going in some fashion. And I think what we've put together and been trying to advance here in Manitoba is really something kind of special from a True Sport standpoint. I believe we are the only province in which we have kind of a group like this that has that kind of breadth and perspective from a provincial standpoint, rather than just, and I don't mean it necessarily in that fashion as just, but we're representing a number of organizations across the sport and recreation landscape here in Manitoba. as opposed to kind of driving, and we're helping to drive the discussion and the conversation and the adoption of true sport across a number of organizations. So it's really, I think, it really kind of, it's impressive, the group of people that we've got going. And as Glenn said, we encourage anyone here on this call or others, your peer groups and colleagues, to join us on this journey. So that's enough of kind of the commercial for True Sport Lives Here Manitoba. As Glenn said, you were given a set of homework coming into this session tonight around values and a whole set of values and what sport and recreation and how those values tie in for you and what they mean for you. Grant and I are going to kind of tag team this these two breakout sessions. The first one will be on values and the second one will be on the principles. And Grant, I think you've got, Grant and I are going to be sharing the same slide deck. So Grant, are you able? Perfect. So if you can just bounce down to maybe that third slide on values. So values are those things, those beliefs, those opinions and attitudes that we hold about a range of things, right? Our values are really the standards that we set for ourselves and that we set as our own organizations or as communities around what are the important things from how you behave in various settings, from a sports standpoint. What are the things that you want to live up to, both internally and internal to yourself? And I think it's important to make the distinction between values and principles, in that values are internal. They're, what resonates in here and in your heart and up here, both as, as an individual participating or watching or supporting that sport or that activity or that organization that you're involved with, but also at an organizational level as well as a community level. Earlier tonight, in his opening comments, Glenn noted that True Sport is kind of centered in on 4 core values of fairness, excellence, inclusion, and fun. But by no means are those the only 4 that come into play here, or the only 4 that you have to, this is not a, rah-rah, everybody's got to have that list of those 4 in their list. That exercise that you were given presented, I believe, 34 values to you that challenged you to look at them and say, what are the ones that really resonate for me and mean the most for me as an individual, participating in sport and recreation in my community, and participating as an individual, and what are the values, and it's hard. I did this exercise earlier, and it's, driving, drilling down to say there's 5 that really float my boat and are the driving values that I apply to my life and how I participate in these kinds of activities. It's not such an easy exercise. And it's not about getting down to just 5. It's about thinking about what are the values that are instrumental and integral to how you approach life, how you approach participation in your organizations and your communities. Now, principles, which is what we'll also, so if you move to the next slide, Grant. Principles are the external side of that. So values, they're fundamental truths in a lot of respects. And I won't spend a lot of time on this slide because Grant's going to introduce and bring some more discussion on principles to you after our first breakout session. But they are more external. They are the things that a group strives towards or lives by, the principles that an organization practices regularly. And they work hard towards continuous improvement and towards achieving those principles over time. And now the third slide, or the next slide. But they do come together, right? There is a link, and they do come together in a very cohesive fashion when you're deliberate and intentional about it. So the values govern our behaviors, while the principles govern the consequences. So your ability to meet the principles, if there's a disconnect between your values as an individual or as an organization and the principles that you are setting out that you want to live by and achieve, that's going to show up in a very obvious way. Values can change over time and situational, and with life experience, the principles tend to remain more constant. And I think the important thing here as we head into this first breakout is there is no one right answer. So while I mentioned before that we've settled on, or TruSport has settled on those 4 core values, those values can be different from person to person, from organization to organization. But as a whole or collectively, when you pull all of those values together that are represented by all of the people that are involved with it and are active participants and supporters of your organization or within your community, it's important that to recognize that they're all governed by those same principles. So there is that connection point over time. So we're going to jump into, in a moment, you're going to be you're moved out of this main part of the session into a breakout group, and MJ is going to be doing that for you in a moment. The homework, you were asked to look at those 32 principle or values rather, and kind of distill them down to the 4 or 5 or 6 that really resonated and spoke to you. So what we'd like you to do in this first breakout session, it's a little bit of an icebreaker as well. We've got 30 or so people participating in the session. Within your breakout group, when you're in there, we'd like you to do a couple of things. And we'll have about 15-20 minutes, I believe, for this breakout, and then you'll be brought back into the main session, and we'll turn it over to Grant to move us into the next part. But when we go into the breakout room, we'd like you to introduce yourselves and just briefly note what your role or connection is to recreation and sport. And then we'd like you to also share your thoughts on the exercise and share your thoughts and impressions on those values. What were the 4 or 5 that you came up with, and why? We're not asking everybody to do a long, plumb the depths of them, but talk a little bit about how you felt the exercise went. Was it easy? Was it hard? Because and again, there's no one right answer. For some, there's, oh yeah, that one right there, or those 2. Those are the ones that really speak to me, and that's how I live my life. For others, it's going to be, there was a lot of soul searching and thought that went into it. So we'd like you to share that experience a little bit with the people that are in your breakout group. So with that, I will turn it over to MJ to move us into the breakout sessions, and we'll see you back in a few minutes. Really meaningful to us as individuals, and there was a couple of common themes, and particularly along the lines of that notion of joy and fun, and how important it is to have that as part of anything that you're doing along the way, whether it's recreation, sport, running your organization, or just life in general. Makes everything a whole lot easier when you're finding some measure of enjoyment in it. So that wraps up the first breakout and the value section. So now we're going to transition into principles and a discussion around that. And, the values kind of rolls into that as we indicated in the couple of slides prior to this. So I'll turn that, I'm not sure, am I turning it over to you, Glenn, for an introduction or straight to Grant?
I've never had a mic that I didn't like, so if you want to throw the mic over to me, that's great.
Away.
All right, so thanks very much, Cal, for leading us through that exercise. I can just say from our group, you said there were some commonalities. From our group, there was a lot of variety. First thing, we came from about, if I had to 1, 2, 3, 4, probably, well, everybody came from different parts of the province. We were probably about 13 or 14 different regions of the province, which was amazing to get that representation. And we selected about 25 different values showed up on the list. And of that, the commonalities, the one that probably stood up the most and was family. And then the second one was commitment. And then we had leadership and teamwork. Were the ones that had duplicates, but it really showed us that there's a wide variety of values that are out there that people have. And I think that was part of this exercise, is to show everybody that when we talk about values, and when you're talking to someone about values, your values may be different from their values. Doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means that they're different. And there's such a breadth of values out there. And as Cal has talked about, that True Sport have picked these 4 different values that sort of are representative of the bigger picture, but they're not the only ones. And so when you're thinking about how you want your sports to represent the values of your communities, then it really takes this kind of an exercise and say, what is it that we want to do? And I think that was the essence of this presentation, is just to kind of introduce you, A, to each other, and it was great to meet so many people. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And B, to show the diversity of values, and 3, was to drink some wine. So not necessarily in that order. Okay. So we're going to go to the second part of the breakout sessions now, and we're going to bring back Grant as our facilitator for that. And I know Grant has run through the project, this kind of an exercise before with his students and even with some of his staff. So we're going to ask Grant to come back and help us with the second breakout room on principles. So Grant, I give you the floor.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Cal, for leading us through that first one. And Glenn's has given us kind of a nice recap, but I just like to re-emphasize again is, as we experienced with, whether you had 10 or 13, and Glenn demonstrated, 25 different values is, lots of different views of the world and what we hold near and dear to ourselves, and they're all right. And so, I often say, coming from an education background and working with students and staff for that matter, is, we all come with our own stories. And, so trying to get an understanding, several of us in our group identified belonging. And I think that's for me, that's an important place to start, is getting a sense of where we come from, why we're here. There's a sense of comfort and safety in that. So these are our whys, and I guess I'd also like to point out that the 4 values that are identified by True Sport: fairness, excellence, inclusion, and respect. Those are not the result of 3 or 4 people sitting around in a boardroom at the Canadian Center for Ethics in Sport. That was the result of a number of cross-Canada conversations. So they came from the grassroots on talking to parents about what they wanted out of their sporting experiences for their young people. The entire report is, can be found on the True Sport website. maybe as we go into the breakouts, I'll look that up and we can bring that back and fire the link into the chat if anyone is interested on that kind of background piece. But I don't think it's any surprise that, when we start talking about these values, that they are going to be varied. And I think they are going to change over time. I remember having the conversation with Carter and, the subsequent groups that I did with, and, acknowledging that those are the values that we hold near and dear at this time. They are shaped by our life experiences. And as we go through different life experiences, those values will change over time. And I guess, the obvious thing is when we bring a group of people together in each of our organizations and try to move forward with vision and missioning statements and action plans, etc., is that those values drive our decision making. And so we need to be aware of that. Not the purpose of tonight, but one example that may be of interest to some. Quickly, I did this exercise with my phys ed staff in Louis Riel, just as a bit of a temperature check. So we went through this and I asked them to identify the values that were important to them from their perspective as it pertained to the delivery of middle years athletics. And then I asked them what they thought the values would be for their middle years students and their middle years parents. And so we had that kind of that Venn diagram, and then we aligned what our practices were to see if our actual practices aligned with what we valued. And, fortunately, they did align, but I think it was an example of how you can use this exercise just to take a temperature check to make sure that those things that we hold near and dear are how we are playing things out. So I am going to share my screen here. Go back to, there's no audio, so we're good on that one. Don't have to figure that one out this time. So again, the link between this discussion icebreaker that we just had with values, as Cal has shared with us before, they govern our behaviors. The principles govern the consequences of those behaviors. Like I said, values may vary and they may change with individuals over time, but those principles are the constant in the universe. Even though we may have different values, they are governed by the same principles. The 7 principles of true sport are go for it, play fair, respect others, keep it fun, stay healthy, and include everyone. You heard from a young person's perspective from Carter, what resonated with him. Each of these will have maybe a little bit different meaning. Go for it is meaning on the field of play is your focus is on doing the best that you can. But Carter, as an example, he also interpreted as, taking a chance and just extending himself to come to that workshop or to try other things that he was maybe not familiar with. So, a bit of a different intention, but they both fit. Obviously, playing fair, respecting others, keeping it fun, staying healthy in all its dimensions and including everyone. Glenn showed us this before. And so within the realm of sport and recreation is kind of within the field of play, we expect these 7 principles to all be present. As outlined earlier, each of these principles is not represented by the same size circle. So depending on circumstances, but in order for good sport to be present, all of these have to be represented within this circle, which is representing good sport. However, what can happen, as Glenn talked about, is this winning at all costs. So this go for it, this need to win. and in our presentations that we've done with students, we give people some slides of athletes, and some of it was kind of dated, so I had to update it, but there was a, there was a slide of, Lance Armstrong, there was a slide of Ben Johnson. So depending on what vintage you are, I had to update it. So the whole idea was, were they at the top of their game at that point in time? Absolutely. But it was at the expense of playing fair or respecting others or staying healthy. That was one of my takeaways from, I'm dating myself, but going back to Ben Johnson and the whole Dove inquiry. And, what I heard, and I could be wrong, but what I heard from all of those testimonies, or what was shared with the public, was that idea of the long-term health consequences of athletes involved with, performance enhancing substances, steroids at the time. They weren't concerned about their long-term health. It was the here and now. So bending the rules, weren't concerned about long-term health because it was about, the medals, the sponsorships, etc. So just, how quickly this can get distorted, and, sport is then not what it's intended to be. So I can finish sharing with that. So what we are going to do now is, invite MJ to send us back into our breakout groups. And we have a couple questions, and they're also in the chat now. And so our questions that we're asking you to discuss in your breakout groups are, do the True Sport principles resonate with you? And then secondly, do you think that all stakeholders should commit to these principles of true sport? We're going to follow this up after we come out of these with a couple polls, just so we kind of get a sense of the audience, but I'll let Glenn lead us through that. So I guess without further ado, that's kind of the bridging between, the values, kind of the why, and then what and the how do we provide good sport. It's through those 7 principles, and we're asking you to, have a discussion. Do those principles, or how do those principles resonate with you? And do you think that all stakeholders should commit to these principles of true sport? So look forward to the discussions in small groups and coming back from that. I believe we have, MJ, maybe if you can just open up, do we have what, another 15, 20 minutes assigned to this?
Yes, you have 20 minutes assigned to this.
Okay, and you'll give us that kind of 2-minute warning again, just so that we're kind of keep ourselves on track. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, I will let you do your magic. Thanks, MJ.
So Glenn, I think we're all back.
Great. Well, I'm hoping that you had as good a discussion as we had in our group. I think our group was the best, I must say, but I'm a little bit biased, but they just had great comments and great insights. And I think the bottom line for our group was that every one of those little circles inside the big circle needed to be bigger. And so we decided that the whole big circle needs to be bigger to accommodate all those circles, which need to be bigger. So they're all so very important in the whole breadth of sport, in terms of making sport, a good experience. So I'm really pleased with the presentation. What we thought we would do is, and I think MJ is able to do this, is just kind of give you a landscape of what everybody was thinking, to throw those 2 poll questions up for you to respond to, and then we'll see what everybody said. So MJ, if you can throw those up, that'd be great.
Pressure's on, MJ.
Yeah.
Well, you all answered the question already, so I'm just going to share my screen, and then I will show you what everybody said.
Oh, you did answer? We did? Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
So Glenn, do the true sport principle resonate with you? Most of the people said yes, and 5 people were not sure.
Okay, and that's great. I mean, all it means is that there needs to be, in some cases, more discussion. And I think the intent of this particular summit was not to answer all the questions. It was really to spark some interest in the area. So I think we've kind of done that, where we're saying, we've identified at least that the principles resonate with a larger proportion of people, and those people who are uncertain, thankfully didn't say no. They're saying, this is really interesting material. I need to be able to explore it more and see internalize this material better. And that's perfectly fine. That's exactly what we would like to see happen. We certainly don't want to, we would not like to see the no's. And if we did have the no's, then it would be incumbent on us then to do the research in there and to try and get some of the insights as to why that would be. So I'm glad to see from the principles that you've sort of agreed with what's happened across the country, that in large majority of people will say, yeah, they all make sense to us. And so we're glad to have that. Now, the second one, do you have that second one?
Yes, I do.
I knew you would.
Would you be willing to be included in our True Sport Lives Here Manitoba network? Half the people said yes, and 2 people were not sure. Well, 12 people said yes, and 2 people were unsure.
Okay. And again, I mean, this is excellent for us to be able to know, because one of the things that we're looking to do is to expand our network. And when we talk about the network, we don't necessarily mean that you have to be on this steering committee. We just need to be able to expand our reach. So if it's a question of having you involved by virtue of the fact we have contact information, we can send information out to you. We are going to be, we will have our own website. It's been in the works now for about, I'd say about 4 months. And we're hoping that it's going to be launched very, very shortly, so that when I say it's ours, it's actually being sponsored by the True Sport Ottawa group, and it will be on their website, but we will have our own portal for True Sport Lives Here Manitoba. And the hope is that we can have something that's specific to our own organization to some degree, but also be able to spin off to what's happening, making you aware of what's happening across the country. So I think MJ has contact information for you. We will be in touch with you and ask you whether or not you would like to be on a mailing list, whether or not you see yourself being involved in the True Sport, and where we go from there. So I guess we can wipe that one out. The last thing that we would like for you to do, because I'm cognizant of time, we're doing really well on time, but I just don't want to keep you any longer than we have to. So we have 2 things that we want to do. One is, at the very beginning, I gave you a heads up and said, we are going to finish off this with a challenge. And what we would like you to do, if you're willing to do this, and this is totally voluntary, but while we're here, if you have responded positively to this, and if you think that this is something that you want to support, one way that you can tangibly support it now would be to go on to the truesport.ca link. And I think I had put it in the chat initially, but I can put down again. Where am I? Chat. What we'd like you to do is to go onto that link and go to the join, I think we'll see if it's there. Yeah, there it is, to everyone. So, come on. There. All right. So I just sent off that truesport.ca. While we're here, it takes like 2 minutes to do this. So you can register as an individual. One of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to expand this list that are Manitoba people. And you can join as an individual, you can join as a team, you can join as an organization. But while you're here, it'd be great if we had you join as an individual, and then we will then record that as being one of the success points of this summit, that we've had X number of people join on that day. And just to give you just a little bit more of a motivation to this, we're going to take those people who have pledged tonight, and I'm sounding like a commercial here, but those people who've done their pledge, we will draw from there and give you, we will have a prize package from the people who have pledged. So if you take just a few minutes to do that, to do your pledge, and while you're doing that, I think we're just going to do a bit of a closure. I think that's where we're at. Just to say thank you very much for participating in this and for giving us such wonderful feedback and food for thought. And I'm hoping that we also have you now part of our team, that we can count on you to continue to contribute in whatever way that you can. So we want to thank you for having been part of this whole process, and we're inviting you to continue on. We do have 2 prizes that we were drawing from the early bird prizes from the registration, and MJ was the one who was taking care of the prizes. And so if you can do the draw, there's a question that came out from Emily. Do we get one of those awesome sweatshirts? You know what? These sweatshirts I just got this yesterday, and I know Megan and Cal got them. We participated in the National True Sport Champions Summit last week. It was over 5 days. It sounds like a lot, but it was actually only 1 hour a day. But it was excellent in terms of, we got lots of insights. The resources are amazing that they have for us to make things happen. These are the things that we want to be able to share with you, and they're on their website already, but we want to continue to share their resources. They have particularly one resource right now that's timely, and that it is the True Sport Principles for Return to Sport Post-COVID. So it's a whole pictogram of the different things that you may want to consider when we're returning to sport. So all of you now, we're on the threshold of opening up our venues and inviting our athletes and our community back. You may want to have a little peek at that one, just to say, okay, what are the true sport things that we can do to make this happen? It's also one for parents, and that parents, they're giving it to parents and say, just be aware, ensure that your community is following safe practices, COVID going back, right? So you may want to be aware of what people are actually seeking out that way as well. Any comments or questions from anyone? Yeah, Grant just put up the True Sport resources on there. You might want to copy that link and just see. It's amazing the stuff that they have in terms of things that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already there. Great. MJ, you ready?
Glenn, I have your winners. Your winners are Walter Barger and Brie Lawson.
Awesome. Congratulations. Way to go, Brie. Way to go, Walter. Good thing you could hear us now, Walter. That would have been a problem. Great. Well, it's 8 o'clock, and I'm amazed we were able to keep things rolling, and I'm glad that we did that properly and we're on time. And I want to thank you all, and please keep in touch with us. And I'm going to go back and finish this wine that I talked too much during the breakout group, so I'll go finish this wine to do that, and spend some time at home with family, which is one of those big principles that values that people were talking about. So I invite you all to go back to your families, enjoy it. And thank you very much to MJ for all the work that she's done. She has been amazing for this seminar. Thank you very much to Ada and to Jess as the tech people. I want to thank Calvin, Grant, Megan, Shane. This has been really a great experience for me personally, and I know for our committee as well. So thank you very much. And I don't know who pushes the end button, probably NJ, but goodbye to everybody.
Thanks everyone.